Evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Welcome to the Wildlife and Conservation Management online distance learning event. My name is Anna Garcia. I'm the postgraduate marketing and student recruitment officer here at SRUC. And this evening, delivering the presentation for you, we have Nick Littlewood, who is the program leader. So hopefully you'll find the presentation useful, just give you a little bit of an overview on the program, what to expect. And then as well this evening, we've got one of our former students of the program who will be talking a little bit about her experience and as well answer any questions. Throughout the event, you're more than welcome to use your Q&A section of your screen, so you can add any questions at any point, and then once the presentation is finished, we'll go through the questions and answer any of those for you. If you have any problems sort of connecting, feel free to email me. Most of you will have received the email from myself, and if any problems, just let me know, or just use the Q&A section if you're having any problems. So I'll hand over to Nick just now.
Okie doke. Thank you very much, Anna. And thank you and welcome and hello to everybody who's joining this evening. So as Anna said, I'm the programme leader for the postgraduate programme, the MSc in Wildlife and Conservation Management. I've got a few slides. I'm going to run through how the programme's structured, how it works in reality, what you'll experience as a student, and some of the other elements that might be of interest to you if you consider joining this programme. And there we go. I thought my slides weren't going to advance then for a moment, but I think we're okay. So SRUC, Scotland's Rural College, we're Scotland's national provider of college and university level education in the land-based sector. So we're a specialist institution, and we aim to be at the very heart of developing a sustainable natural economy in Scotland. Issues such as environmental impact, sustainability, and the biodiversity crisis, they affect all of our lives. And our courses integrate innovative science and real-life expertise to tackle these environmental challenges both locally and globally. SRUC, it's a very special place. Although as distance learners, you might not see the hard physical buildings of SRUC quite so much. I just want to describe how we're set up, because you might happen to live close to one of our sites and you might be interested in how it fits into the wider picture. So we're not just a single site, we're actually a mix of different sites scattered across Scotland. We've got 6 main teaching campuses shown on the map here. For this particular programme, most but not all of the people that deliver this course are based in the Aberdeen campus, so the top right corner. We've also got a number of farms, and we've got consulting offices and vet practices and research centres across Scotland and even beyond Scotland. We're a unique institution. We integrate disciplines of research, education and consultancy. So these things come together to SRUC. We've got teaching teams who are responsible for delivering the high quality education to students. We've also got an active consultancy business, and we've got researchers who conduct cutting edge science, and both of these provide knowledge and innovation to government, policymakers, businesses and industry leaders. At SRUC, you'll be taught by a team incorporating especially lecturers and researchers, with some input from consultants as well, and also input from guest speakers from who work in the sector. And indeed, knowledge exchange is the very heart of what we do. And we like passing on subject-specific knowledge and ensuring that the practical application of theory is part of the learning experience. So a little bit about the facilities at SRUC, and if you live close to a campus, if you do happen to live close to one of them, you are very welcome to come and use the campus facilities. And sometimes some students find that simply having a space that's removed from home helps them focus more easily on studying. Each cohort has a year tutor, and that's the go-to person throughout the year, who provide professional support and personal support or signposting to support. And there's someone who usually is slightly detached from the teaching, so they can answer a whole wide range of questions without getting into the nitty-gritty of the actual teaching that you're going through at the time as well. In some instances, there might be a requirement for more specialist support. And SRUC has got a fantastic team of education officers and pastoral staff who can provide support with things like study skills, managing finances, balancing time commitments and well-being, and a whole range of things along those lines. And again, if you do happen to live close to a campus, that you're very welcome to get involved in the student events and clubs and societies. Distance learners are still very much a part of the student cohort at SRUC. These are clubs that are run by students for students, or if you're not close to a campus or there isn't a society for you, then why not start your own? And you can start a society with distance learners at the heart of it as well. So wildlife and conservation management. The programme is aimed at people interested in our habitats and the species living in them. Good management of land and countryside is key for both conserving wildlife and ensuring sustainable human activities. And this course is aimed at people who are interested in the natural environment, who want to look after it and want to go on to inspire others to do the same. The word cloud here, it's based on the prospectus entries for the wildlife conservation management courses. And you can see some recurring themes throughout them, obviously including terms like wildlife and conservation and management, of course, but also things like biodiversity, ecology, environment and people, all key components of this course. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how the course is structured. Typically, if you come into this course, you can study for up to 3 years. Year 1 is what we call a postgraduate certificate, Year 2 postgraduate diploma, and Year 3 MSc. Now, when you apply, you will apply to one of these levels. You'll apply to PgCert, PgDip, or MSc. Everybody in Year 1 does the same modules. So at the end of Year 1, assuming you do okay and you pass everything, those that have applied for the postgraduate certificate can graduate at that point with that qualification. Those who've applied for postgraduate diploma or MSc carry on into Year 2, and the same at the end of Year 2 going into Year 3. But not just that, if say you sign up initially for postgraduate certificate and you get to the end of that first year and you think, actually, this is all right, I'm quite enjoying it, I'm handling the study okay, I want to do a bit more of this, then because you've done exactly the same course as the other students in Year 1, it means that you can then just progress into Year 2 and complete the full postgraduate diploma, or you can progress into Year 3 ultimately and achieve the full MSc. There is a bit of flexibility, so some of these years can be done over slightly longer periods still, or you can take a year gap between some of these. If you really need a breather, you can do Year 1, have a year gap, have a breather, come back in and do Year 2. So this is a typical progression, but there is a little bit of flexibility in that. Programme incorporates 5 main themes. So it's a postgraduate science qualification, but it also incorporates some social elements. So the environment needs managing for wildlife and also for people. So a proportion of the course looks at different ways to work with people, to educate them about the natural world, and also to help how to manage the land for sustainable use. But the main core of what we do is the science of wildlife and habitats. What do they need? How do we conserve them? Those sort of things. And we look at things like underlying ecology of how species interact, what makes them tick, how they fit within the environment and within the habitats that they're in. And we assess the state of the natural world, and we look at ways to improve it in terms of biodiversity and habitat quality. And we do this through studying a range of modules. So again, a wee bit about how the course is structured. In Year 1, you study 4 modules. I'll just read this out: farming, forestry and the environment, topical issues in wildlife and conservation, ecological survey and assessment, and planning and sustainability. Year 2 has got managing the outdoors for people and nature, advances in land management, conservation management planning, and data management, so project management and data analysis. The academic year is structured into 2 semesters. So one runs basically up to Christmas and the other one starts in sort of mid to late January and runs through to about May. And you study 2 modules in each semester. So the first year, as I said, was postgraduate certificate and then postgraduate diploma. If you carry on into the third year to do the MSc, then the entirety of the third year is taken up with a research project. This is a project that you're developing in discussion with staff. So it's a piece of independent research, and there's a few examples there of the sorts of projects that students have carried out in recent years. And sometimes these are sort of entirely independent, and sometimes they're in consultation or collaboration with experts or organisations from outside of SRUC, but always with an SRUC supervisor and SRUC oversight. Here's the people that teach the course. So we've got a range of lecturers based mostly at the Aberdeen site, but a couple based at our Elmwood site. Most of us are active in teaching and in research. So from my own background, involved with a wide range of research projects, but particularly looking at how land management affects biodiversity in the uplands. And I've got a particular interest in things like bird assemblages, insect assemblages, and like I say, how decisions affect those. We've got the bottom left there is Sarah, who is a marine mammal specialist. She's excited about everything to do with marine mammals and particularly how they communicate with one another. Victoria and Tony in the sort of second column, they're based at our Elmwood campus, and they're involved with teaching onto the farming, forestry and the environment module in the first part of the course. And very integrated with a lot of the practitioners, integrated with a lot of land managers in that area. Robin is an agricultural researcher who's also does a lot of work on agricultural sustainability. Colin is one of the teachers here in Aberdeen who's very keen, especially on woodland management and in terms of how to manage people in the environment. Louise on the bottom row, first and foremost, a plant ecologist and plant community ecologist with particular interest in the uplands. And Dave towards the bottom right, special research skills and expertise in matters relating to sustainability. And he's been doing work particularly on looking at biofuels and things like that. So this is the core teaching team, or at least has been at the moment. We occasionally bring in other people for a range of activities throughout the time that the programme runs. Teaching delivery it's an online course. Delivery is by a platform called Moodle, so it's a virtual learning environment. And essentially on Moodle, you have a page for each module that you study and a range of tiles. And through these, you will access the various teaching materials, assessments. You'll submit your assessments via these. The timetable will be up there, all those sorts of things. And each module has live sessions. As distance learners, obviously, this will be a course that will be quite reliant upon your own commitment to self-study, but with our support and our structure. And we have live online sessions, and generally during term time, you can expect one, sometimes two of these each week, and they generally run for an hour to an hour and a half on a weekday evening. Those sessions are not mandatory, and they are typically recorded because we recognise even as distance learners, there will be times when you're not able to engage with online sessions. So excuse me. So we do make every effort to be able to, for you to be able to catch up with those afterwards if needs be. We do get together occasionally, so twice in each semester, twice each year. So once each semester during years 1 and 2, you'll be invited along to a study weekend. And these are at various locations in Scotland. So it might be Aberdeen, or they might be central Scotland or Southwest Highlands. They're not mandatory, but we do very much strongly encourage attendance at these. They're a good way to meet lecturers, good way to meet fellow students. They're a good way to sort of talk more deeply about some of the topics that you're studying. The study weekends are designed to supplement the teaching. They don't deliver new material, but they enable you to go into greater depth through a range of site visits and the likes. And as you can see from the photographs here, the study weekends are always held when it's nice and sunny. And as you can see from the middle photographs, there's always a lot of cake eating involved with study weekends. You might have heard by now that SRUC has recently received degree awarding powers. This is something that may incrementally affect courses at SRUC over coming years, but if you enrol for this programme and you start on this programme this coming autumn, then you will be on a course that is underwritten by the University of Glasgow. So the delivery will be all by SRUC, but the graduation will be at an event at Glasgow University. The whole sort of graduation experience with the robes and the whole Hogwarts thing, opportunity to bring friends and family along to help celebrate your achievements. And that applies at whichever of the three levels that you enrol at. So whether that's postgraduate certificate, postgraduate diploma, or MSc, you get the opportunity to go to one of the graduation events associated with that. And then it's out into the real world. But due to the nature of this course, some of our students enter the studies while they're already working in the sector. But for most, it's a way to develop skills that might help you with that job search, including as a career change option. And we've got phenomenal success in our students going out into relevant roles in the sector. Or rather, our students have got phenomenal success. They're a fantastic advertisement for us. Over the past 4 years, I've been closely involved with this course. Over 90% of our MSc graduates have been working in the sector, either at the point of graduation or during the following months after graduation, and that is in relevant roles in the conservation sector. This slide lists just a few of those roles that people have gone into in some of the organisations, but it's a wide range of roles. But like I say, a phenomenal success rate of our students getting into those employment roles. So last couple of slides, why choose SRUC? Well, it's fair to say that the teaching team at SRUC is nothing short of passionate for the subject area and for providing real life opportunities to learn and apply your knowledge and to realise your potential. And we do this by integrating key themes of wildlife, habitats and people throughout the talk modules, and we take every opportunity through the study weekends and guest lectures to introduce you to our wide range of professional networks in the sector. And another thing I'll add is that the experience of myself and colleagues who worked at several universities in the UK and beyond is SRUC has the highest level of student support that we've seen. It's fair to say that staff here genuinely do want their students to succeed. And finally, why is the course itself so important? Well, fundamentally, we need to protect and care for natural resources. Human activities are expanding at unprecedented rates. People everywhere are increasingly recognising this. The United Nations has recently launched its decades of ecosystem restoration and decades of ocean sustainability to focus attention on some of these issues. A key aspect of this is managing both people and nature. And you can see in the pictures some local examples of conservation needs and concerns. These issues are what we call the wicked problems, and we want to train the next generation of scientists to help solve these and to continue vital conservation work, not just in Scotland, but globally. So if you want to be part of this work, then put yourself in these shoes and walk this way. And that's me. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much, Nick. Hopefully everyone will have found that helpful. And now I would like to introduce you to Ruth. So Ruth Alexander is a previous student of the programme, so she has done it a couple of years ago. So Ruth, if you could just please tell us a little bit about yourself, about what was your sort of experience in studies before you've joined the programme. How did you find it, and what are you up to at the moment as well?
Cool, thank you. Thanks so much to Nick and Anna for inviting me along this evening. I I think that what I have to tell you about, which is my story, is particularly relevant to you if you haven't got a background in science or if you're career changing from a completely different industry into the world of conservation. I worked, my first degree is in theatre, film and television studies, and I worked for 30 years in theatre industry as a stage manager and company manager until COVID, when the theatres all closed and I was made redundant along with a lot of my colleagues. And one of my colleagues had seen this course advertised and asked me to be a referee for her. So looking over the information on the course, this was about a week, I think, before it was due to start. I thought, oh, that looks quite interesting. Not completely new to conservation, so I had been volunteering with National Trust for Scotland for about 4 years previously, just in my spare time as a conservation volunteer. So it wasn't completely a sort of stroke of genius in the night, but it was pretty quick. So basically, I phoned them up and I started, I think, the following weekend on the master's course, distance learning. So this exact same course here, and I say the learning curve was pretty steep. For me, I had no science whatsoever. So I had not even taken biology past second year in secondary school. So zero science. Learning how to write scientifically was a whole absolute curveball because, being in the arts, it's all about being interesting and not using the same word twice, and having to learn this really kind of dry, factual, repetitive style of writing did not come naturally at all. This course was absolutely perfect for me. I absolutely can't recommend it highly enough, just because of my personal circumstances. So I've got 2 school-age children with additional support needs at home, so I couldn't travel. If this course hadn't been distance learning, I wouldn't have been able to undertake it. So being able to learn in my own time, the mixture of having live sessions where you can connect with people in real life and have an actual chat with your peers and with the academic staff was absolutely invaluable, but also knowing that they were recorded, so if you weren't able to make a session, you could make it up in your own time. The flexibility was massively important to me, and the fact that I could do this course, part-time, over 3 years, whilst I was working part-time as well. So about a year into the course, I managed to get a job as a countryside ranger with National Trust for Scotland part-time. So I could have those 2 roles running alongside each other, which was actually perfect because it meant I was getting the practical experience from work and seeing, the whole point of all of these modules. And I have to say that the range of modules was really one of the things that first attracted me to the course, and actually it was the most useful thing because I have used pretty much everything. I know this sounds really unlikely, but genuinely the first project I did when I got in the door at NTS was an interpretation project, so all about the nature and the history of the Pass of Killiecrankie. So designing new kind of interpretation boards, so having done managing the outdoors for people in the environment, and the interpretation modules as well was fantastic. I've used, the ID skills. We do biological monitoring at work. Forestry, sustainable forest management is my big thing at work as well. Even down to running social media campaigns about various issues that we want to let people know about through work. Genuinely management plans. I've been writing management plans for work because that's something that I learned to do at SRUC as well. So genuinely, I cannot recommend it highly enough. By the time I graduated, so I graduated with a distinction with my master's, having had a published paper in peer-reviewed publications, and now I've got a job doing something that I absolutely love. Every single day is different. So I've carried on my learning through work as well, through CPD. I've got my chainsaw ticket. I'm now a qualified professional tree inspector. And I think, genuinely none of that would have been possible without this course. So so if you've got imposter syndrome, then this is the place to quell that, I think.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Ruth. So, obviously, I think it is really a good example. A lot of the people that we get in touch with us is this similar sort of route. Sometimes they don't have the sort of the science background, but would that be what would be the main advice that you would give them was just to go for it. What would be the advice that you would give to someone that would be in the same sort of situation?
Absolutely go for it. I think the support is there and all the resources are there. So it's basically what you make it. You know, if you just throw yourself into it, and take advantage of all the opportunities you've got, all those learning opportunities, then it feels like a really safe space to do it in. You know, nobody makes you feel silly. It was genuinely as easy as it could be. I think I would say statistics was the biggest learning curve, and I think that I probably speak for most of my cohort there, in that took us a bit by surprise when we got to third year, and suddenly that the expectation was there. So yeah, I would say get that under your belt if you can, to a certain degree. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing holding you back. As I say, it's never too late. You know, I would never in a million years have thought I'd be doing this for a career if you'd asked me this, you know, 5-10 years ago. And yeah, it's transformative. I really feel like I'm doing something worthwhile. And actually, I go to work and I do the things that I love to do in my spare time. So, you know, you can't say fairer than that, I don't think.
Yeah, that's right. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for a lovely testimonial, Ruth. That's lovely to hear. So Nick, I'll bring you onto screen as well. So we've got a bit of time now to answer questions. We already have a few here, but if you're still with us, feel free to use the Q&A section of your screen, and add any questions that we will answer now. So the first question I've got here from Aaron is asking, what is the deadline for applications for this year?
So we assess applications on a continuing basis. If you apply, then you would generally get a decision within a week or two, depending on what's going on at the time. But yeah, you would get a fairly quick decision as to whether you would have an offer or not. And I would say apply as soon as you can. As Ruth's experience was, it's sometimes possible to get in on the course at the last minute. Sometimes we close applications early, depending on the level of applications that there have been. In the last couple of years, we have done that. So the applications have been closed come sort of like end of July, beginning of August. So certainly you're fine over the next few months, but I would say don't leave it to August. If it is August and you're still keen, give us a shout and we'll let you know. But there's a chance at that point you might find that applications have been closed. So basically, continuously until we are full.
Perfect. Good, thank you. I'll just go into the next one here from John in regards to the entry requirements. So it says that you do take applicants with non-science backgrounds, and it will be considered on a case-to-case basis. But he's asking that he's worried about the lack of science background, and asking, if not suitable for the MSc, if there's a foundation or a conversion preparatory course that he could do to prepare himself for it.
Okay, that's a really good question. So as Ruth has described, it can be quite challenging if you come into this having not done science as a first degree. The entry requirement basically is having an honours degree in a subject, in any subject, generally speaking, because someone who's got an honours degree has demonstrated the ability to access information, to research topics, to appraise information, put it together, and produce written assessments based on that. And these are the key study skills that you'll be bringing in, having already done the degree. The subject matter on top of that, then, of course, is where the learning curve might be. And we structure the course now so that at least the first couple of modules are quite general in terms of the sort of topics they cover. They're not sort of assuming lots of prior knowledge. So we try to sort of ease people in that way. And some people take to it very readily, and some people, do find it more of a shock coming into studying. In terms of the question about sort of doing foundation course, We do a distance learning course, assuming that you're interested particularly in the distance learning. We do a distance learning course called the HNC, Higher National Certificate in Wildlife and Conservation Management, which sort of in simple terms is basically the first year of a degree. And many of the same people teach on that course. And sometimes people who have got the entry requirements to come onto the MSc might do that course first, just to sort of get a feel for the subject and ease themselves back into studying. And then once that's given them enough sort of confidence, they come then come onto the MSc. But it's by no means mandatory to have done that before starting the MSc. I'll just add to what Ruth said before as well. So thank you very much, Ruth. That was a brilliant testimonial there, fantastic. But I'll add to what Ruth said as well, is that people coming into this from a wide range of backgrounds, and I think what I observe sitting back as well is that people sort of learn from each other during the course. Although it's a distance learning course, you don't need to be completely isolated in the way that you work, and we do encourage connection between people in the range of different technologies and ways that are possible to do so. And it, we encourage people to form a community of learners, and in doing so, that people will bring in experience and skills from their own past, what they've been involved in themselves, and I think sort of help to build up a sort of general body of experience between the cohort and the community of learners. I think I've waffled around that a wee bit, but basically, yes, it can be challenging. Absolutely is possible. I don't know if Ruth wants to add anything. She's already spoken about her own experience, but if you're particularly concerned, then there is the distance learning HNC course that can provide some sort of foundation in the subject matter.
Yeah, I would maybe just add to that the other way that you can do that is by demonstrating an interest in the subject through other ways, so volunteering, just showing that you've had that passion, that interest for a certain amount of time, and that I think that's it, is having the capacity to learn and study, but also the interest in the topic, and whichever way you can demonstrate that, I think, is equally valid.
Perfect, thank you. We did have someone asking about costs, so fees. We've shared the link there for you, so it would depend obviously if you are a Scottish student, UK student, or international. So we've sent the link there, so if you just refer to our website, you'll have all the breakdown of the fees, whether if you decide to do the 3 years or sort of year by year. It's all available on the website there. We've got another question here from Christopher. It says, what is the assessment process, for example, assignments or written exams, etc.?
Yep, thanks, Christopher. We tend to, so most of the taught modules during years 1 and 2 typically will have 2 assessments to them. And we try to make the assessments really varied. It's not a case, well, I did a master's myself 25 years ago. Thoroughly enjoyed it, but I was an essay factory during that year. The assessments now are part of the learning process, really. When you go out into the world, you're not writing 3,000-word essays in work. What you're doing is you're producing some publicity material, you're doing a presentation, you're doing maybe a poster, some visual display. You might be doing a vlog, video log. And these are the sorts of things that form our assessments. So as well as using that as a vehicle for exploring subject matter for that module, you're developing and adding to your skills in communicating that material through a range of ways that are actually relevant in the workplace. And yes, some of the assessments are heavily dependent on a lot of writing, but even then they tend to be maybe an article that is written in the style of a publication that might be relevant in the sector, rather than a sort of straightforward sort of scientific essay as such. So yeah, I think that's it really.
Okay, thank you. And we have another cost question here. So it asks, do the loans from SAS generally cover the entire MSc tuition fees, or is it partly self-funded for Scottish residents?
Caught me out with that one. I'm going to tell you what I think the situation is. and I'm hoping Ruth might be able to tell me how she handled this as well. I don't know if it's the case or not. I think that essentially SAS, as a Scottish domiciled student, SAS will fund 5 years of study generally. So if you haven't used all of that up, 5 years of post-school study, if you haven't used all of that up, then what that will cover is the postgraduate diploma, so the years 1 and 2. It covers a large part of years 1 and 2 of the fees, but not year 3, not the MSc year, which is a slightly lower fee level. It's one that if you want more clarity, I don't deal with the funding, so I'm afraid my answer is not going to be definitive. If you want more clarity, then drop me a line and I'll be very happy, myself or Anna, to put you in touch with the people who can give you a more definitive answer. But certainly, absolutely, a lot of our students are supported by SAS, and I believe that covers years 1 and 2 of the course, but not year 3.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, as Nick said, if you want to drop me an email, I'll put you in touch with admissions or someone that will be able to give you a definite answer on that. I've got another question here from Claire. It says, for the final project, is it a practical or theoretical project? If they are practical, such as data collection, would be in my own area, or would they be done on campus?
Yeah, thanks, Claire. So the final project, it is a research project, but that can be either something that involves you collecting your own data, or it can be something that you're working with someone who already has a data set and you work with them to examine that. Or what Ruth did was collected some data and supplemented it with existing data in a sort of a place that had been looked at several times over a number of years. So, and this would be somewhere that is accessible to you. It's not a requirement to be on campus for that. Projects are developed to the same discussion with staff. We advise throughout the course on what makes a suitable project, and some of them are projects where there might be a suggested topic that's maybe come from a staff member or from an external organisation, or in other cases, students will make up their own projects based on something that they're interested in. Sometimes it might be somewhere they're either working or volunteering, and have a particular interest in the site. But there's no requirement for that to be on campus. It is where the student, it is where it's convenient for the student to do it.
Okay, great, thank you. And we have another question. Roughly how many hours study a week for each module?
This is a difficult one because it varies so much from student to student, but it's one that gets asked quite a lot, so it's only fair to give an answer to that. And it varies depending on the time of the semester you're on. If you're sort of very, very disciplined and you sort of assign a certain amount of hours each week to doing things, then fantastic. If you're like a normal person and it comes to the exams, the assessment deadlines, and you need to cram to get into something in for that deadline, then of course that's going to skew the sort of distribution. But what I would generally tend to say is that during the main sort of semester time, the main sort of, 12, 13, 14 weeks of each semester, you're probably spending 1 to 1.5 days a week working on this. It might be a day at a weekend and maybe an evening or something. There might be times when you're not doing much for a week or two, and then other times when you cram for a longer period. Does that sound fair from the student point of view, Ruth?
Yeah, I kind of budgeted for about 16 hours a week because I wanted to make sure that I was giving it enough of my time. And I would say, so including your live lectures, it's not more than that. When you get into the third year, which I probably enjoyed maybe more than anything, it feels like it's quite all-consuming, can do. So I think the main thing to be aware of is that you need to pick something that you are super interested in. Otherwise, you will be heartily sick of it by the time you get to hand in that dissertation. So, choose something that is of massive interest. And I would be prepared for about 16 hours a week. And that way, you'll be pleasantly surprised if it takes up less of your time, I would say.
Great, thank you. I've got a couple more questions. So if you are thinking of the MSc, are a career changer, but have already studied for an MRes in the natural environment, would you recommend the MSc, PDA, agency, HND to gain knowledge and skills in this area?
That's a difficult one and will depend upon one's own background experience, really. So an MRes in a natural environment, obviously it's a very research orientated program, and it depends. Yeah, it depends on someone's background. I wouldn't like to give a definitive answer to that one, really. I would say someone who has an MRes in a natural environment studying on this particular course would be unusual, but I'd absolutely not want to, say not to do it. Someone who has an MRes in a natural environment studying at HNC level might find it very basic, perhaps. The PDA, did the questioner mention the PDA there? I think you said,
Yes.
Anna.
Yes.
So that's a good one as well. That could be a suitable option. The PDA Professional Development Award is another distance learning program that we do that borrows units from the HNC and HND level units. So it's a range of units from essentially what might be equivalent of years 1 and 2 of a university course, but it's that range of units that are most practical and applied to practical conservation things such as ecological surveying. There's GIS in there as well, so some of the skills-based stuff and stuff to do with data handling and stuff. So I think I'm sort of talking my way around to that one maybe being particularly suited in this case, but it very much depends on the individual background. I would say for this question or any of the others, if they want to discuss their own individual situation and their own individual background, then do feel free to get in touch with myself, or if it's particularly the HNC or the PDA, I can certainly direct you towards the relevant program leaders for that as well to discuss that on an individual case.
Perfect, thank you. And the last question we've got here says, is it possible to jump straight to year 3 if you have significant experience in the industry, for example?
No. Quick answer to that one, no, it isn't. You need to complete the whole modules during years 1 and 2 and then the dissertation in year 3.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I think that is it for, I think we've got another question. So another one says, do people working full-time in a non-related sector generally cope studying at this level?
I think the best person to answer that would be someone who's done it. Ruth.
That's quite tricky, isn't it? Full-time in an unrelated area. I would say it has to depend on your circumstances. If you've got other commitments, caring commitments and so on that take up a deal of your time, I think the easiest way to think about it is if you could cope with an extra sort of 14 to 16 hours of your time being used up in a week. If you've got that capacity, then absolutely there's no reason why not, because it is so flexible. It's not requiring you to be available at specific times of the day or specific times of the week. Although, as I've said, you have that bonus, of that kind of human contact if you can make the live lectures. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're organised and you think that you've got that capacity, then there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be able to do that.
Can I add as well? So a lot of students do this. This is a lot of people do this course because they have a range of commitments, which might include in many cases work in different sectors. And I'm not going to for a moment say it's going to be that it's a walk in the park. I'm sure it's. I always have loads of admiration for people who do achieve that. And obviously it requires a certain amount of commitment and resolve to be able to do that. But what I would also say is there is a degree of flexibility. I've mentioned it briefly earlier. And if you do find that studying two modules per semester is too much, there is the option of studying 1 module per semester. Of course, it then takes twice as long to complete. Or you can swap between these. So you can do, you can start off studying 2 and then drop down to 1 later on if that becomes too much. So there is a degree of flexibility there, and you can take a year off between years of study. You can take a couple of years off if you want to between years of study as well. So it's not necessarily a full-on commitment to study and maintain that level of study right the way through. So just bear that in mind if you think that it might be particularly challenging to sustain that.
Great, thank you. I believe that's probably it for questions just now, so we'll close the sort of Q&A section of the evening. And just to let you know, so if you are with us this evening, you will receive as well the link with a recording for this event, and it will be made available on YouTube as well for you to watch. You'll be able to access any of the previous ones just in case any other different questions are asked throughout these sessions. So I would like to thank you both, Ruth and Nick. Thank you so much for this evening, and thank you for all of you as well that attended the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.